And in a lot of cases for individuals, we'll judge people who are not taking this information in incorrectly or negatively because I need to touch it. I need to kind of engage and work through that. Now, one of the things that when we think about these different styles is that independent learners are behavioral action, which is part of our personality model. Cognitive analysis are the visual, things that are taken in visually. Interpersonal are the auditory, and affective, which is expressive, is the experiential. We have in our model that the behavioral action, the action-oriented individuals and the expressive individuals are extroverted. And extroversion in our model does not mean people-oriented. It means that they try to influence the environment. They see the environment as something that they want to control, to influence, to be challenged. It's an opportunity. They just love it. Everything that's out there. Cognitive analysis or interpersonal harmony or auditory and visual learners are more introverted. And here's what we mean by that. They are individuals that are more deference to the environment. They have more suitability. They follow the rules. So when we think about the educational system globally, you know, in high school or elementary or middle school or even university for that matter, what styles do you think that we appeal to? What learning styles do we primarily appeal to in the educational model that's out there? Cognitive and interpersonal. Because if you're an independent thinker that has a different pace than I have dictated, or if you need to experientially touch the information and be able to kind of act out what it's doing, then we don't have a place for you. Now here's another side of it, just so you know, when you're teaching adult learners. When I've done 2,000 presentations now, and at first I wanted to control the adults in the room. You know what? You can't. The individuals that are behavioral and effective in their learning style, it's based on biophysical research on the reticular activating system, which is the base of your brainstem, at the base of your brain. Extroversion comes out of the fact that these individuals have less their fibers, but what it also means is that they can take more stress, but they also need more stimulus. It converts into this in the classroom. They don't have suitability. Their body cannot sit still. It needs to move. It needs to move to be able to be educated. So what happens if I'm a boy, I'm 10 years old in a classroom, and I'm fidgety?
You're ADHD and we're going to put you on medication.
Yeah, you're destined for Ritalin. And we had a doctor that was talking here not earlier this week, and just the amount of Ritalin that's being put out there is absolutely ridiculous. It could be biophysical as far as the health, what I'm taking as far as food, and the balance of that, and just the acknowledgement. Now, I know that the ministry is now moving into the fact we need to have 20 minutes of physical activity every single day in the classroom. Why? Because I need to have that energy dispersed in that, and it's nothing wrong with the child. There's nothing wrong with me. So now, if I go into we do our 3-day Train the Trainer certification program, hey, if you get up and you need to get coffee, you go do that. And this acknowledgement of that. Now, here's the other side. Most people are blends of these patterns. Very few are just singular, meaning one of those dimensions. So I have a combination of, and it's your preference in how I take that information in. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's how do I take that information, and that's the pattern that comes out of that. So I might be visual and auditory, so I need to be looking at both of those. I might be independent and experiential, which is completely contrary to what the standard educational system works on. So what we're doing as a company is putting together a curriculum and a program for two sides of this. One is the learning side, where I can be intentional and set and choose courses and choose programs that meet that need as best as it can. I mean, you're an actuary, or if you get somebody into accounting, right? There's some accounting courses just the way it is. I mean, you just have to suck it up and just stay focused on the high cognitive side of things. But maybe you can have an instructor that has experiential or case studies that gets you into the numbers to do trials on it rather than here's the book on it. And so now all of a sudden as a learner I can take responsibility of the environments that I could be most successful in, knowing that there are some cases where I need to kind of suck it up and maybe a little bit more flexible in terms of the learning environment. Now the flip side is this, and I'm going to skip through. There's in-depths that I'm going to also give you as well. The instructional style is what is my preference in teaching. We had an instructor at the University of Washington gave us a call. It's actually this tool here. And he said, I wanted to compliment you on the fact that you finally give me an understanding that my teaching style, my instructional style, was intimidating some of my class members. And so that, in this in-depth interpretations, we talk about what are your preferences, but also what are the dynamics when you are teaching learning styles that are different than how you like to teach. We're not asking you to change, or teachers to change, we're asking you to include different learning strategies and approaches to make that work for every single person. And so when you look through that, these patterns then, and there's 21 different patterns or combinations that come through that, there's a full page of narrative that really talks about what are the strengths, what are some difficulties, and here are some what we call style shifting tips. Meaning, if I am responsible as the teacher for you to learn, what do I need to do or not do? Yes, Tim, you can hand one out to each person. Okay, so
is this primarily looking at teachers in a classroom setting with kids, or also people like Kathy and I who are consultants and trained adults?
Absolutely, everybody. I think if you look at this list, that list really represents, if you are instructing others, then you have that responsibility. So especially trainers, and looking at, even in curriculum design, how can I set up the information that I'm going to impart on you in a way that's going to be engaging for you, so that you can strategize that and work through that. Now, I remember doing this for a school about 10 years ago, and here's where I caution everybody, is that they took this information, and in one day they wanted to completely redo their curriculum. I said, you're going to blow your brains out. You need to take a step and work through that. What we used to do in Kreiser when we had all these large training contracts, they permitted team teaching. So we had instructors or trainers with different styles that would get into the room, and that balanced the kind of energy that happened. So you had somebody who was more careful, more cautious, and they might even teach the cognitive part, and then we team taught with somebody else at a different kind of energy level on a different component. And now all of a sudden, even how instructors work with this, one of our largest clients is CSX Transportation out of Florida. So we did this with their training group of about 20. And then the senior executive worked through them and said, what I'm going to try to do is put people together that are opposites to be able to balance that out and bring that diversity in how you're going to teach. As well as the instructional design team had to take this in consideration as they were moving through that. So all I'm suggesting as we go through this is, and I mean, if you're a trainer, I wouldn't train without knowing this information or getting grounded on it. Tim, yes, you can hand one of those out to everybody as well. He's an awesome helper, is it right? He's waving in the background. Is that somebody who's extroverted or introverted? Is he waiting for me and the rules, or is he just going to interrupt me while I'm speaking? Okay. Okay. And then it's understanding that, that what motivates one learner doesn't motivate another. And can I be conscious of that and not take it personal? Now, when you fill this out, it takes it in two different modes. One is from a learning, one is from a teaching. And how can I teach? How can I engage that person so that they can have a positive experience as a result of that? Okay. Give one to Jerry wants to learn more to work through that. What we're going to be doing, we haven't finished this yet, in our other programs, is that we have created a workbook curriculum and a PowerPoint to go together to teach this. This is the entrepreneurial one. We're just working on the one for the Why Don't You Teach the Way That I Learn program. So our planning is to have a curriculum where you can just deploy this. And as a learner, probably a 3 to 4 hour kind of segment so that they can start to understand it. And what happens for some students is they finally have self-acceptance. They've been beat up in the classroom, or they beat themselves up, or they couldn't understand why they couldn't get it. And so as a result of that, they get freed for that. And then we're going to have two programs, one for the instructor where you're just teaching a bunch of teachers, Pro D-Day, or you're going to teach the teachers to teach it, which would probably be like a 6-hour kind of program. So that's what we're looking at to kind of bring in, and so you have a workbook, even customize that for whatever that curriculum, and in a PowerPoint, and away you go. You have this trainer plan that to go out there, and then they could even, in some cases, fill this out online. Some of you have already done the online tools, have that information ready, and then move right into an example. And part of that curriculum will be forcing the different instructional styles or learning styles to see it differently. In other words, to teach contrary or different than what you normally teach, or learn differently than you normally learn, just to get a feel for what it means.